Hey, 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 how is everybody? How's it going? It's Vincey Lou and Nina too. I think that needs to be in there. How's it going, ladies? I just practically swallowed my supper whole. So dim wit waits till dark 30 to start cooking. Then I have to swallow home. A little bit of a sinus issue going on here. Nina, is Moni going to be? Oh, I was going to say, is Moni going to be here? And she's not on here yet. It's just you two so far. But there was 3 on here, so she may be having issues. You might want to message her and see if she's having any issues getting on. Didn't know where she was from. I didn't look. So I didn't know she'd be on here or not. Gracious. We had cooked on the grill tonight. We had a London broil. And then I had bought some kebabs at Walmart when I went and picked up groceries the other day. And so I had kebabs, veggie kebabs. And then we steamed some sugar snap peas. And then I added a can of cream corn for Mike because he doesn't like a lot of the veggies on the veggie kebab, like mushrooms and peppers, and he real keen on red onions, which I'm not either, but I'll eat them. But they were good. Whew, my head feels funky tonight. We got all this weather coming through, and it's just messed me up. I haven't read ahead. I hope I don't. I'm not doing an Irish brogue, y'all. You can forget it. Unless she's written it in Irish brogue, then I can maybe pull some of it off. But it was really good, Vincy. But I wish I could have enjoyed it because I literally eat it in like 20 minutes. And I mean, it was a big old plateful too, but it's. There she is. Hey, Moni. I love your name, Moni. I love it. Okay. So it's 8:06. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I don't think we got any weather coming this way right now, but let's not take any chances. We've got these pop-up showers, but it's more pop-up storms, and it's just all over the place. And oh god, all of a sudden my eyes went to blurring or went to burning. Anyway, we've got pop-up storms coming up all over the place, and it's been crazy. We've had 2 or 3 showers today. Okay, so tonight's book is Love Delayed in Dublin. Moni, does this have a Irish brogue in it? And it's A Tick to True Love. And I'm assuming that's going to be a series or is a part of a series. Let's see if I can get Sugarfoot. There we go. You guys are going to have to excuse the mowing. If my neighbors worked as hard at a job as they do on that yard, they probably wouldn't get the power turned off half the time. Okay. All right. So, chapter 1 is from Jordan's point of view. Well, hello, Raven. How are you, darling? Memories from last night surfaced while Jordan lay in bed with her eyes closed. How much vodka has she consumed before Kay convinced her that dancing on the bar was a good idea? Was it the alarm that woke her? A noise had woken her, but she couldn't place it. Wait, was the music playing on the jukebox at the World War II era bar only stuff like Elvis Presley, Johnny Mathis, big band, and swing music? What had been so lit about last night and that they were dancing on bars? She pried her eyes open and quickly shut them again when the light caused a stabbing pain. Ow! That happened. Some rando bought them shots of Patron. They must have been too wasted by that time to realize that vodka chased by tequila was a bad idea the day before the wedding. Holy crap. Jordan rubbed her aching head. She felt like she'd been hit in the head with one of the liquor bottles from last night. Silently, she made a vow that she would never get that drunk again. Never. And I made that vow 2 or 3 times. 1, 2, 2 3/4. Just open your damn eyes. Slowly, she peeled her left eye and then her right eye open. The harsh glare made her squint. She threw her arm over her face as a shield. My eyes are burning out. I think it'd be the onions. Oh, sorry. There was that noise again. It sounded human, like someone was in distress or. She removed her arm from her face and leaned on her elbow to peer over the nightstand at the other queen bed. The covers were tossed back and the bed was empty. Oh! The wail had come from the bathroom. Jordan let her head drop back onto her pillow. Ugh! She stared at the ceiling for several seconds and sighed. This was her responsibility after all. She was the maid of honor. She ran her hand over the top of her head and cursed. Damn. Her headscarf must have come off in the middle of the night. Her curls were probably a wreck. After prolonging her exit from the cozy bed a few more minutes, she finally kicked the sheets away and stumbled towards the bathroom. Without knocking, she pulled the door open. Slumped over the toilet was the bride. Her friend looked pitiful. Y'all, my eyes is just killing me. Sorry about that. Her friend looked pitiful. She was in a tank top and panties on the cold linoleum with her body practically wrapped around the porcelain throne she'd been puking into for who knows how long. If you guys ever wondered, and we've all done this, when you're sick like that, you will literally hug that thing. But yet, to clean it, we're like, ew, but honey, we get sick and it don't matter who's been sitting on it. It's just, it just needs to hold you up. I'm going to take these contacts out for a bit. While I scratch my balls. I think I already lost that one. Or did I? Nope, it's there somewhere. There it is. That way I don't lose them. I have those soft contacts, the 30-day night. So I'll put them in cleaner for tonight. Y'all, I'm so sorry. I know it feels cool, but it's just like what are we thinking, when we do that? And I've done it. I mean, I have literally just laid there like this going, oh God, just please kill me now. Okay. Her friend looked pitiful. She was in a tank top and panties on the cold linoleum with her body practically wrapped around the porcelain throne she'd been puking into for who knows how long. Kay's tall, slender frame was hunched over the toilet bowl, and her face was as white as the toilet seat. Jordan pressed her lips firmly together and felt the urge to burst into giggles. Kay let go of the toilet bowl and reached out to her, waggling her fingers. Jordan walked over and sat on the edge of the tub. She rubbed Kay's back and tried to comfort her. Are you okay? No. Kay pouted and turned away from the toilet to put her head on Jordan's lap. My body is rejecting the water. It's a sign. I can't get married. This time Jordan did laugh out loud. It's not funny. Kay murmured and swatted her leg with a weak slap. Instead of going to Vegas like a normal bachelorette, Kay had wanted to go to some little town in Pennsylvania called True Springs. Jordan had never heard of it before, but if that's where her best friend wanted her bachelorette party, that's where she would have it. During the planning for the trip, Kay confessed that her reason for wanting to come here was because of some legend about a couple finding true love in the town. The town's water supposedly contains lover's magic. People came from all over the world to drink the water because they believed it had mystical powers that would help them fall in love or find true love. Jordan wasn't sure. Hellfire, keep me away from there. Oh. It was unlike Kay to believe in such crap, but here they were. Given her family's history with relationships and the number of divorces her parents and her brother had piled between them, Jordan understood Kay's fears. If divorce was an Olympic sport, Kay's family would be standing on the podium with the gold, silver, and bronze medals. I just thought if I drank the water, then it would ensure that Harrison and I stayed together forever. I don't want to marry him, only for us to divorce later, and I end up like my mother, father, and brother. A marriage whore, going from one failed marriage to the next. They both laughed. Marriage whore? Jordan snorted. She'd been there the night Kay and Harrison officially met. That New Year's Eve night had been magical 8 years ago, but now only held bittersweet thoughts for her. Jordan brushed aside her feelings. Kay was her best friend, and this was her big day. It's just jitters. It's normal. You and Harrison have been together for a long time. You were meant to be together. We are? Kay hiccuped and kept crying on her lap. How do you know that? How can you be so sure? Jordan rubbed Kay's shoulder and stroked her long, dark brown hair. Love is a choice, Kay. I've watched you and Harrison over the years. There were times that you fought and broke up, but you always found your way back to each other. You always made a choice to love each other. That's how I know. She paused, hoping what she was saying was sinking in. The last thing she wanted to do was stand up in front of a church full of people and tell them the wedding had been called off because the bride got cold feet. Plus, it took 3 times of Harrison proposing for you to say yes. How many men do you know that would have kept asking? He's crazy about you. You have to make an honest man out of him. He's been waiting a long time to marry you. Kay chuckled. You're right. What would I do without you? She looked up at Jordan with bright eyes. Unfortunately, the rest of her usually beautiful face was a wreck. Around her blue eyes were dark smudges from the eyeshadow and eyeliner she hadn't washed off before going to sleep. Black stains from her runny mascara caked her cheeks. Vomit crusted her lip. Oh, girl, we have to get you cleaned up. Thank God the wedding isn't until tonight. Jordan chortled. You look a hot mess. Jordan covered her mouth when they broke into peals of laughter. She leaned away from Kay. You have to brush your teeth, get some mouthwash or something, because your breath is horrible. This only made them laugh harder. Once they could finally contain their giggles, Jordan left the bathroom to give Kay some privacy. Checking the bedside lamp, Jordan saw it was 10:30, an hour and a half before the motor coach would be waiting to take them back to the city. Kay, Jordan called out while she struggled into a pair of yoga pants. She finished pulling the black stretchy pants up her legs and walked into the bathroom. Jordan knocked on the door. Hey, yo. Kay's muffled shout was nearly drowned out by the running shower. I'm guessing breakfast at the Heartland before we go is out of the question, Jordan yelled at the door. Kay answered with a groan. Jordan smiled knowingly and shook her head. She'd expected that response after Kay had just puked her guts out. I'll just grab us some coffees from the Valentine's Cafe down the street. After shrugging on a sweatshirt, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her bronze skin looked a little dry. She applied some moisturizer and finger combed her natural curls into a workable style. Turning this way and that, she checked herself out in the mirror. Not too shabby. Height-wise, she wasn't quite as tall as Kay. Jordan's height was average, and she had curves for days. Satisfied with her appearance, she left their hotel room. The Sweetheart Inn was small, but they'd been able to book all of their rooms on the same floor. Before heading to the cafe, she knocked on her sister's door along with the other guests of the bachelorette party to wake them up. Some of the women were pure divas. If they didn't get woken up now, they would be late getting on the bus. Exiting the inn, excuse me, guys. Koji, I ate my supper too fast. Hey, Jody. Oh. Exiting the inn, the first thing her gaze landed on was the town's prized fountain that contained a life-size statue of a couple, Adele and Myron. Was it Myron? Something told her that wasn't correct. She shoved her hands in the pouch on her sweatshirt and stood on the sidewalk looking at the stone likeness of the two kissing figures that had inspired the legend True Springs was famous for. Another minute passed, and then Jordan turned away and headed to the cafe. After ordering their coffees to go, she noticed in the cooler section next to the register were bottles of water. She picked one up and read the label. Love water. The slogan scrawled in cursive on the pastel pink and blue label said, True Love's Magic Elixir. Wow, they were really trying to sell you on this. Unlike all the other girls, Jordan purposely hadn't drunk the water since they got here. She hadn't bought into all the garbage about true love. It just sounded like BS to her, another way to make money. A patron rushed up to the register while she was still looking at the water. The guy dropped an armload of the love water on the counter. He sported a huge grin while he handed over his debit card to pay. The water really was a racket. After his departure, she turned the bottle over and over in her hands. The perspiration coated her fingers. What could it hurt if she tried it? When in Rome, she murmured to herself and walked back to the register and paid for the bottle. At the time, the coffees were ready as well. She collected everything and headed back to the hotel. While waiting to take a shower, Jordan drank the water. It didn't make her feel any different. Was something magical supposed to happen? Rolling her eyes, she tossed the bottle and took a sip of her coffee. Shower's all yours. Kay emerged from the bathroom, followed by a cloud of steam. Jordan gave her best friend, who was about to become a wife, a lopsided smile. The bus will be here soon. A quick glance told her how much time they had left. It's an hour and a half back into the city. We'll go straight to the venue, and your glam squad will be waiting to make you into the most beautiful bride. Kay was bursting with excitement. Her megawatt smile lit up her face. I'm getting married! She screamed before jumping up and down. Jordan was happy the unsure, skittish person that Kay had woken up this morning had fled. The outdoor night wedding on the rooftop of a New York City high rise in the late spring was stunning. The balmy weather was perfect. Kay and Harrison, exchanging their vows earlier, had left Jordan misty eyed. When she plopped down in her chair after toasting the couple, she reached for a napkin to wipe away the happy tears. Great speech, babe. Josh, her longtime boyfriend, leaned over and kissed her. Everyone was still clapping. Kay leaned forward so she could see Harrison. Thank you. She dabbed away tears before reaching over and squeezing Jordan's hand. Harrison stood. I'm not sure how I'm going to top that. Some people in the crowd chuckled. His fingers tapped against the champagne flute he held in his hands. Some of you don't know the story of how Kay and I first met, or the disaster that was our first date. Jordan suppressed a giggle, remembering that strange but crazy night. She found her thoughts drifting to Connor, Harrison's friend that had been her date that night, and the memories turned sour. Josh entwined their fingers beneath the table, pulling her from her daydream. She pasted on a saccharine smile and tuned back into Harrison's toast. I was sure she wasn't going to wait. I was sure she wasn't going to want anything to do with me after having to wash dishes to pay for our dinner, getting robbed at gunpoint, and so many other misadventures. People laughed. But here we are. Harrison looked down at Kay, and practically the whole room let out a collective sigh at bearing witness to their love. Kay, today you've made me the happiest man. I hope that I make you happy for the rest of our lives. Harrison raised his glass into the air amid applause and shouts of joy. To my beautiful bride. Jordan raised her glass and toasted her best friend before she drank down the contents in one gulp. The wedding planner must have given the DJ their cue because a ballad started playing. We'd like any couples that are here to join us, Harrison made the announcement before relinquishing the microphone to the DJ. Hand in hand, he and Kay walked out onto the dance floor. For a while, everyone watched the two newlyweds sway back and forth to the music. Even though they'd had their first dance as husband and wife earlier in the evening, minutes later, couples began crowding the dance floor. Want to dance? Josh stood while he asked the question. He wore a bright smile and offered her his hand. Jordan accepted. She let him guide them through the crowd until they found a space. He pulled her in close, looping his arms together low on her hips. Her sisters, Elodie and Zoe, and I may have gotten that wrong. I'm not familiar with that name, were a few feet away, dancing with a couple of the groomsmen. The wedding and the beautiful reception should have made her feel romantic, but it wasn't. She couldn't put her finger on exactly what was bothering her. Leaning her head on Josh's shoulder, she did her best to be in the moment. They moved slowly, rocking from side to side. Her gaze landed on Kay and Harrison. They were lost in each other's eyes. The way they looked at each other, Jordan was sure they probably felt like they were the only two people in the room. Harrison leaned down and gave Kay a slow, lingering kiss that made Jordan feel like a voyeur. She looked in another direction and found her parents on the dance floor, swaying to the love song. They'd been married nearly 35 years, and after all this time, they still seemed very much in love. The way her father was looking at her mother could rival Harrison and Kay. The minute the thought entered her head, she knew what was bothering her. Here she was in one of the most romantic settings, surrounded by all these great examples and representations of real and passionate love that seemed to ooze from each couple. In her realization, it became clear she didn't have that. No fire burned in her own relationship. There were no fireworks, no spark, no all consuming passion. She hadn't felt any of those things since New Year's Eve night with Connor. This time she didn't try and push him away when he entered her mind. Connor Byrne. Is that how you say it, Byrne? Or Byron? They'd had an instant connection between the connection when they met. And I'm part Irish. You'd think I would know this. It had been just one crazy night they spent right alongside Kay and Harrison, experiencing things that went straight out of a movie. After the ball dropped and a new year dawned, they'd made plans to see each other the minute he returned from Ireland. He had to go back and deal with some visa issues and see his family, and then he was due back. But he never came back, and Jordan never heard from him again. She spent months trying to figure out what happened. Asked Harrison a million times if he knew anything or how to get in touch with him. They'd just been work colleagues. He didn't have any more information than she did. Jordan and Connor never had closure, and lately, now more than ever, she found herself thinking of him. Tonight, seeing all the couples that were deeply in love made her realize she was hungry for that feeling that she'd felt with him. In all the years she'd been with Josh, she'd never felt what she felt in that one night with Connor. An up-tempo song cut into their trip down memory lane. Josh let her go and took her hand. As she followed him back to their seats, while those that stayed on the dance floor started moving and shaking to the new beat, Jordan stared at the back of Josh and wondered how she had let things get this far. She wasn't in love with him. A couple of hours later, the raucous crowd followed Kay and Harrison out to the limo that was waiting to whisk them away to their hotel, where they would spend the night before boarding the morning flight that would take them on their honeymoon. Jordan had her arm linked through Kay's. Being a new wife seemed to agree with her. She was brimming over with happiness. I can't believe I'm Mrs. Pritchard now, she grinned. Her heels and the train of her wedding gown were clutched in her other hand. She dropped her voice to whisper. It was clear Kay was tipsy. Jordan leaned in to hear what her friend wanted to share. Just think, next year this will be you. You'll be a Mrs. too. The last part was slightly slurred. What? Maybe it was the noise from the crowd. Jordan wasn't sure she'd heard Kay clearly. What did you say? Harrison told me that Josh is planning to propose. Act surprised when he does. Kay gave her a none too subtle conspiratorial wink and slipped into the back seat of the limo. More people rushed forward, crowding into the open door of the limo to say their goodbyes, blocking her access to Kay. Jordan stood dumbstruck on the sidewalk, fear and shock commingled on her face, stunned and rooted to that spot. She was unable to keep the door from closing on Kay once everyone finished with their well wishes. She wanted to jump in the back seat and ask her how she knew. Did he already have the ring? Where was he planning to pop the question? Would it be tonight? How much time does she have to stop it? Honey, she'll be back from her honeymoon soon. They won't be gone that long, and then the two of you can go back to the all-girls talk and lunches you always have. Josh kissed the side of her head and waved at the departing limo. He mistook the expression on her face for her being upset over Kay's absence. Jordan watched the limo disappear into the night, knowing that she would need to make some decisions very soon. After her revelation tonight, there was no way she could marry Josh. Innocent, whatever. Connor, chapter 2. A huge, oh man, I gotta do some Irish brogue. Y'all bear with me. A huge yawn escaped Connor's mouth before he could stop it. He'd been yawning all morning thanks to his Egypt brother. Egypt brother. There we go. Egypt. I use that term all the time. Um, this Irish brogue may turn out more like a Scottish, Irish, American wannabe brogue. So, you look like shite, laddie. Ferguson looked at him squinty eyed over the top of his beer, like staring would help him discern why Connor had dark smudges under his eyes. I'm grand. His mouth stretched into another yawn that he covered with his hand. He filled a pint and slid it across the bar to a patron. Connor inherited Fergus and his cronies when he took over the running of Byron's pub 8 years ago. Did you tell me how to say that? If you did, I missed it. I apologize. I'm going with Byron, but if it's wrong, I apologize. Took over the running of Byron's pub 8 years ago. The three old geezers became fixtures during his father's run of the place. They were known as the Three Wise Men. It was a running joke because they were as old as Methuselah. Bite me. Told you I'm not very good at this. It was a running joke because they were as old as Methuselah. Someone had been taking the piss from their coin when they coined the moniker because wise they were not. They should have been named the Three Biddies for all the gossiping and crowing they do. Now they were pensioners and spent their days seated at the bar giving Connor hell. The men couldn't have looked more different from each other. Fergus was a barrel-chested man with a craggy face, which was often mottled red from drinking and all of his blustering. Desmond was a wisp of a man that looked like he would blow away in the wind. He had tufts of gray hair attached to his scalp that stuck out this way and that in a gray beard. Most often he wore a cap to cover the bald patches. Niall was a rotund, bald man with a mustache. In the face, he resembled Oliver Hardy from the old comedy duo Laurel and Hardy. That's hilarious. Where's that dossier brother of yours? Niall, one of the three wise men, asked before swilling his third Smithwick's for the day. Connor did not wish to be reminded why he was in such a foul mood. Don't know. He wished they would stop asking him questions and just drink. Today he was in no mood to be asked about his brother or his whereabouts. He glanced at the clock on the wall and then at his watch. That was the correct time. Sabo and one of the other bartenders had agreed to come in and cover the bar for him so he could get home. She wasn't running late. He was in a rush. My dreams. Desmond, the last member of the Three Wise Men, must have seen him checking the time because he hurled another question at him. Got some place to go, boyo? You've been checking the clock. You was waiting on Jace's to arrive. You've been checking the clock like you were waiting for Jace's to arrive. His buddies cackled into their beers. Feck off. Connor gave the old man a wan smile and went about wiping up the bar and waiting on patrons. No sooner had he said that than Desmond and Fergus whistled. The three of them stared at whoever it was that caught their attention from the time they entered until they were seated. When are you going to finally marry the lass? Fergus's gaze was still locked on whoever had come in. Connor's head swung around to a glimpse of the woman Fergus thought he should be making a bride. He saw, I don't know this name. Is it Aof? Aofi? his ex, for nearly 2 years, sitting with some coworkers. She was trying to act like she didn't see him looking in her direction. He snorted as he turned back to the men. Moria, Moria, we haven't been a couple in nearly 2 years. Connor went on tending bar. That's hard to do in a deep voice, y'all. Moria, we haven't been a couple in nearly 2 years. Connor went on tending bar, amused at the comment. The last clearly still was a thing. The last clearly still has a thing for you, lad. She'd been looking at you since she got here. Fergus added the observation before tipping his glass back and emptying the contents. Unable to help himself, Connor turned to look at Afy again. Let me see if it tells me how to say her name. But it don't. Oh, it does. Ify. 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 This time their eyes met and held. She smiled and gave him a small wave before rejoining the conversation with her coworkers. He only lingered a second longer. When he turned back to the men, he cleared his throat and refilled Fergus's glass without needing to be asked. The old mid knew better at this point to let the subject lie. Afy was gorgeous, blonde, and had a body made for sin. Afy was also the kind of girl that was never satisfied with her life. She could have a slice of the cake right in front of her, but eventually she'd want the whole cake. For a while, they kept screwing after she broke up with him. What was the Americans called it? Friends with benefits? She was a good ride. The arrangement was fine for a while, but then he could feel her wanting more despite being the one that broke up with him. He would not get back on that hamster wheel with her. If they got back together, things would be fine for a while, and then she'd be looking for ways to change things, and especially for ways to change him and mold him into some ideal wanker she had in her head. It's not Midland. It's fair to Midland. Good griefers. Even though he finally ended it with her, she still came back to the pub every other week or so, like now, for lunch with her coworkers or happy hour. She even came there sometimes on dates, hoping to make him jealous. Connor wasn't with anyone, but he'd moved on. There would never be a he and Effie again. I'm going to call her Effie because I'm really having a problem with this name, okay? And I have issues with names anyway. I'm the world's worst with names. Um, there would never be a he and Effie again. Thankfully, one of her coworkers came over to the bar to buy the first round. By the time it would be her turn to buy a round, he planned to be long gone. 30 minutes passed with a steady stream of customers and no more questions from the Three Stooges. Saboen came rushing in with her golden red hair blowing out behind her. Sorry, I got here as fast as I could. She set her helmet on the counter before ducking underneath. Connor was already pulling his jumper over his head, ready to make his escape. It's fine. I'll appreciate you coming to fill in on your day off. I'll make it up to you. Nah, no need. She tied an apron on. She lifted the bar flap so he could get out instead of ducking underneath like she had done. Give Rowan our regards, Niles called out. On the way out, Connor grabbed a packet of crisps to eat in the car on the way home. During the short drive, he rubbed at his tired eyes and stuffed chips into his mouth. That's what he got for skipping breakfast. He knew he should stop and get petrol so he wouldn't have to do it tomorrow, but he just wanted to get home. A short while later, he pulled up outside the Georgian townhouse that he shared with his dad and younger brother in St. Stephen's Green. His parents had bought the property when he was still in secondary school and a year or so before his mom died. He let himself in and walked straight down to the hall to his father's room. It used to be the study, but he had converted his father when his father suffered a stroke 8 years ago. After being left paralyzed on his left side, he couldn't have managed the stairs very well. The home care aide greeted him at the door to the room. He's better. The seizure was a small one this time. He's been sleeping since you brought him home from the hospital this morning. All Connor could do was nod. Words failed him. He was relieved his father was okay, but he was choking on anger now that he was home. Where the bloody hell is Cash? When the night nurse left last night, Cash was supposed to stay put and check on him from time to time. Instead, he'd gone out, leaving their father alone. Just because the old man had been asleep didn't mean he didn't need looking after. He was going to batter his brother when he got here. Thank you for coming in and sitting with him. I'll make sure the agency knows to bill us for the extra hours. He yawned again and rubbed his eyes while he escorted the nurse to the door. Once she was gone, he returned to his father's room. Da, you're awake? I heard you. Come in. The words were slowly mumbled from the right side of his mouth. I'm sorry I woke you. His father shook his head and attempted to push himself up against the pillows. Y'all hang on, it's going to be bright. Okay. His father shook his head and attempted to push himself up against the pillows. Connor rushed over and lifted him up so he was seated with his back against the headboard. Sometimes it hurt to look at his father and see how his ailing health had severely aged him. He had once been a very handsome man. While he opened the drapes to let some light in, he talked. Fergus and the boys say hello. Those Muppets are still coming in, his father began laughing. Aye, he chuckled as well. He was about to say something else, but his father was racked with a cough. On the nightstand, they kept a jug filled with water. Connor hastily filled the glass and pressed it to his father's lips. When his father reached up and held the glass on his own, he let go and stepped back. His father guzzled down the water. Some of it dribbled out of the left side of his mouth, wetting his shirt and the blanket. There were times when all Connor wanted to do was escape. He loved his father, but he never thought of his life would turn out like this. Before he could say or do anything, the front door crashed open and then shut. Da, his baby brother, Cashel, called their father. Why he did that, he didn't know. He knew their father wasn't just roaming around the house. Cashel stepped into the room. Da, he paused before delivering whatever news he was bursting with. Connor, you're home. Figured that out by yourself, did you? Aye, Connor held his anger in check. He did his best not to have a row with Cash in front of the father. Without asking anything else or showing a thread of remorse for not doing the one thing he had been asked to do, his brother launched into his news. Any other time, Connor might have listened with interest. Right now, he was seeing red. Patrick's dad just got a fully restored Porsche Carrera S2.7. It's savage. He let us take it out. Connor had been half hoping that Cash had needed to leave his responsibility because of a friend was in trouble or he needed to go help with something important. He should have known it would be just for the crake. Can I see you in the kitchen? Connor said the words calmly, but inside he was a raging inferno. He clenched and unclenched his fist in an effort to keep his anger under control as he stalked into the kitchen ahead of his kid brother. While he waited, he paced the floor. His nostrils flared and he ground his teeth together in aggravation. Back in a second, Da, Cashel called out before stepping into the room. I was in the middle of a really good story, you know. Connor grabbed his brother by his jacket and slammed him into the wall. He kicked the door shut with his foot so their father wouldn't overhear the conversation. Friggin' hell, his brother hissed. I don't get angry when you miss shifts at the pub. Connor yanked him away from the wall and slammed him against it once more. I never said a word when you dropped out of the uni. If you want to If you want to be a fuck up the rest of your life, that's your business. But when I tell you to sit with Da for a night, I expect you to bloody well do it. Cashel tried to twist from his grip. Let go. Who died and made you gaffer? The words with that English accent in there. You're so you're so goofy, girls. There was a 7-year age difference between the two of them, with Cash being younger. As Connor stared at his brother in the eyes, he remembered a time when Cash was shorter and leaner. Now they were of equal height and build. Where he had brown hair and green eyes, Cash had dirty blonde hair and blue eyes. Naturally, when his father got sick, it fell on Connor's shoulders to take care of the family. Not once in the 8 years since he had given up finishing his degree in architecture in America to come and care for their ailing father had he ever thrown the sacrifices he had made in his brother's face. He didn't think he needed to. Of course, that didn't keep Cash from acting like a spoiled brat who pissed away his potential at every opportunity. Connor released his hold on his brother and stepped back. He had a seizure last night while you were out gallivanting around. The words were said calmly. He's all right, though. He looked all right. That's strong. Maybe that's something Cash needed to tell himself. Connor was past the point of believing or pretending that their father was okay. He hadn't been a boy for a long time. Cash had yet to put away childish things. Aye, he's strong. The lie came easily as Cash swallowed it because he needed to. Connor was exhausted. He'd been at the hospital all night and since early this morning while they checked his father over and ran tests before bringing his father home and heading to the pub. He headed for the door, but his brother's words halted his steps. I'm sorry, Connor. You're right. I should have stayed. Connor sighed but didn't turn around. He didn't like fighting with his brother. I'm knackered. He ran his hand through his hair. All he wanted was his bed and some uninterrupted sleep. Make sure he gets some lunch, and I think there's some stew left over. Just warm it up. But put the telly on for him. He likes to watch the young offenders. Sure. After he left the kitchen, Connor trudged up the stairs to his bedroom. He shut the door and dragged himself to his bed. When his head hit the pillow, he shut his eyes. Memories of New York and architectural school flashed in his mind, and as usual, with those thoughts came the memory of the petite American girl he'd met on New Year's Eve. Thoughts of her still made him smile. Sometimes he wondered what might have come of them if he had made it back there. He opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling. She was probably married with some wee little ones by now. More than likely, she hated him for never contacting her. What would he have said to her? Their feelings for one another had burned so bright in that one night. Maybe it was youth or maybe it was true love, but he remembered that he wasn't afraid of the strong feelings that he had had for this girl he'd just met. They'd actually given him a warm feeling inside. He'd never felt like that way again. Connor threw his arm over his face and huffed. This was life now. What good did it do to keep revisiting the past? He shut his eyes again and drifted off to sleep, but not before Jordan entered his dream. All righty, what'd you guys think? Um, I have I have one author that I've read. She's got a series, and there's five. I've read 5 books, and I'm still getting the names wrong in them, and it's the same characters. So don't feel bad. A lot of times it's me more than anything. And the thing I like about Kindle is you can, and you don't always do it on names, especially if the names are kind of made up. But if you can, if you hold your finger down over it, it'll pop up and it'll give you the dictionary and the Wikipedia and whatever else you need. And if you remember your grammar school stuff and how to pronounce, it helps. So I have to do that a lot of times with words, but I really didn't think about this one being an Irish, having an Irish side to it, or I might would have prepared a little better. My apologies there. Um, Usually I don't do too bad when I cold read them like that. But I will be practicing that one some more. So I hope I didn't mess it up too much. Again, you guys, it's called Love Delayed in Dublin. It's a ticket to true love. Now, Moni, is this going to be a series? Oh, you do need to read the rest of this book. It comes out June. Is it today or tomorrow? I didn't even look. I don't even know what. I don't even know what. I don't even know what planet I'm on, y'all. There we go. That's better. Cool. Thought that thing should have gotten louder. I was giving the wrong buttons. Did it come out today? I know when I went to look for it yesterday, it wasn't, or day before yesterday. So yesterday, it wasn't out yet. So I can't remember when the due date was. All right, you guys. Came out today. And Nina, Moni, you guys want to give us the prices and the links and all that stuff if you've got that. And then tomorrow night, I will be reading Death's Desire by Tracy Ball. Now, for those that don't remember Tracy, she's the one that wrote, and this book is nothing like that one. But she's the one that wrote. I read back in the fall. It was Silver Warriors, about the little slave girl that was falling for her the son of her plantation owner. This book's nothing like that though. So, but that'll tell you who it is I'm reading. And then Thursday night, I've got Juniper Sight by Rowan Thalia. So, I hope it's $1.99. She says she thinks. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. I'm going to finish reading this book. I love anything to do with Ireland though, especially modern day. I mean, I like the old Irish stuff and the Scottish Highlands and stuff, but I have a thing about modern day. All righty. You guys have a good evening, and thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. This is a good crowd tonight. I really appreciate this. I'm going to do Irish Brogues more often if it's going to bring crowds like this out. So, all right, everybody, have a good evening, and I will talk to you guys later. Happy reading.